Your driver's license can be suspended in 2026, even if you've never had an accident, never gotten a ticket, and never broken a traffic law in your life. And the most dangerous part is this: you may not realize it's happened until it's already too late. No flashing warning, no officer at your door, no second chance, one quiet mistake, one missed notice, one automated flag in the system, and suddenly you're driving illegally without even knowing it. This isn't a prediction. It's already happening in many states, and in 2026, the systems that cause it are getting even stricter. Most drivers still think suspensions only come from bad driving, but that's no longer how it works. Suspensions are now tied to paperwork, automation, and deadlines inside systems that don't care how long you've been driving or how perfect your record is. By the time you finish this, you'll know exactly what's triggering these suspensions, which rule is catching the most drivers right now, and what you need to do to protect yourself before 2026 hits. To see how we got here, you have to understand what changed behind the scenes, because the real reason more licenses are being suspended now has very little to do with people speeding or running red lights. Right now, three forces are colliding, and together they've permanently changed how DMVs operate. First, demographics. Tens of millions of Americans are entering a retirement age. Older drivers are now the fastest growing group on the road. By the end of this decade, every baby boomer will be over 65 and states are under pressure to monitor risk more closely than ever. Second, automation. This is where everything really shifts. DMV systems are no longer slow, manual, and reviewed by people one file at a time. Insurance databases, traffic enforcement, medical reporting, and license records are increasingly linked together in near real time. That means same-day enforcement with no human judgment in the moment. The software doesn't pause to consider your history. It doesn't weigh your intent. It doesn't ask questions. It simply sees a missed requirement and applies the penalty. Third, finances. Insurance payouts from crashes are exploding in cost, and states are responding in the one way they know how: tightening oversight, ramping up compliance checks, and leaning on automated penalties instead of education, warnings, or officer discretion. Put these three together and something important disappears. Forgiveness. 20 years ago, a paperwork mistake might have triggered a friendly reminder, then a follow-up letter, maybe even a courtesy call. Today, you often get one notice. If you don't respond in time, the system moves on without you. No appeal in the moment, no grace period, no conversation. That's why so many responsible drivers are getting blindsided right now. Not because they're unsafe, but because no one told them the rules of the game had changed. Hi, I'm Sophia. I break down DMV changes, driving laws, and license rules using verified information from state transportation departments and legislative records. No hype, no guesswork. Today, I'm walking you through 5 changes tied to 2026 that are quietly suspending licenses all over the country. I'm not starting with the obvious one, and I'm not starting with age-based rules. I'm starting with the change that is hitting more people right now than any other, including drivers who've done everything right for decades. This is the rule that doesn't feel like a violation at all until the damage is already done. Many states now monitor your insurance status continuously through electronic verification. That means your insurer and the DMV are electronically connected. When your coverage lapses, even briefly, the system doesn't wait, doesn't send a friendly warning first, doesn't ask what happened. It simply flags the vehicle and starts the consequence process. Most drivers hear this and think, "That doesn't apply to me. I've had the same policy forever." That assumption is exactly what's getting careful people in trouble. What's actually happening is usually simple and very easy to miss. Your credit card expires and your automatic payment fails. You forget to update the number. The email about it goes to an old address. 2 days later, the DMV's system logs an insurance lapse. Your registration status is automatically suspended. A notice is mailed, but by the time it reaches you, the suspension is already active. At that point, you're legally not allowed to drive that car, even though you've done nothing different behind the wheel. From there, things escalate quickly. To reinstate, you have to restore coverage, pay reinstatement and processing fees, update your information. If you get stopped during that window for anything at all, officers can impound your car on the spot. Now you're facing towing and storage fees and a suspension on your record. Your insurer sees the suspension and recalculates your risk. Your premium goes up not because you crashed, but because the system shows a gap in coverage. 10 or 15 years ago, people could go uninsured for weeks before anyone noticed. Today, in many states, the DMV knows within 24-48 hours. Penalties can include fines from $100 to $500, reinstatement fees, registration suspension, in some cases, license suspension as well, all triggered automatically. This rule doesn't target reckless driving. It punishes administrative mistakes, and once the software flags you, fixing it takes time, money, and paperwork. Here's how you protect yourself. Use automatic payments, but with a stable funding source. If you can link payments directly to a bank account instead of a credit card. Cards expire. Bank accounts rarely do. Once a month, check that your policy is active. Log in or call your agent. It takes 5 minutes and can prevent months of fallout. When you switch companies, make sure there is no gap at all. The new policy should start before the old one ends, not the day after. Some states treat even a 24-hour gap as a lapse. Make sure your insurer and your DMV both have your current address, email, and phone number. Most states still start the process with a mailed notice. If it goes to an old address, the suspension still goes through. This one rule alone is behind more surprise suspensions than anything else right now, because it feels invisible until it's not. Now, the next change doesn't start with a ticket, a crash, or even a DMV form. It starts in a doctor's office. Most drivers don't realize that in a number of states, doctors are either allowed or required to report certain medical conditions that could affect driving. This isn't about punishment. It's about liability and safety inside an automated system. Conditions that may trigger reports include significant vision loss, epilepsy, or seizure disorders. Conditions that cause sudden loss of consciousness, serious cognitive decline, poorly controlled diabetes, and similar issues. In states where reporting is mandatory once your doctor sends that form, the DMV doesn't think it over. It starts a process automatically. Here's how people get caught off guard. You go to a routine appointment. You've had a condition for years. You've been driving without incident. The doctor sees a small change or realizes your condition meets the official reporting criteria. As part of standard procedure, they file a report. Weeks later, the DMV sends you a letter asking for updated medical documentation and/or a vision test and/or a fitness to drive form filled out by your doctor. You get the letter, you feel fine. You've driven safely for decades. You put it aside for later. 30 days pass. The system doesn't wait for you to feel like dealing with it. It automatically enters a suspension for non-compliance. No second letter, no follow-up call, just a status change in the database. Most people only find out when something else happens. They're stopped for a minor traffic issue, or they go to renew and discover the suspension. Now, they're no longer just dealing with a medical review. They're looking at a charge of driving on a suspended license, which is a criminal suck offense in many jurisdictions. That can mean fines starting at $500 or more, court costs, additional reinstatement fees, in some cases, possible jail time, all because of a deadline on a form that got ignored. In most cases, your doctor is not trying to take your keys. The DMV often just wants updated confirmation that you're safe to drive. But the rule is simple. If you don't respond, the system reads that as non-compliance and moves ahead. So the protection here is not fear, but MA speed and communication. If you have a condition that might affect driving, talk to your doctor now. Ask directly, is this reportable in our state and what do I need to do to keep driving legally? If you ever receive a DMV letter about medical or vision review, respond immediately. Collect the records, talk to your provider, and submit everything before the deadline. Being proactive keeps you in control. Doing nothing guarantees the worst outcome. The first two changes can affect anyone at any age. The third mainly targets a specific group. Across many states, age-based renewal rules have quietly tightened. Once you pass a certain age threshold, renewal may no longer be automatic. Online renewal can be blocked. Mail-in renewal options can be removed. In-person visits and on-site vision tests become mandatory. The age cutoffs differ, Some states start extra requirements at 65, others at 70, 75, or 80. This patchwork makes it hard to spot unless you actively look. Here's how this hits people. You're in your early 70s, your license expires in a few months. You go online to renew like always. The system rejects your attempt and tells you to come in person. Now you're stuck booking an in-person appointment, sometimes weeks out. You show up and take a vision test in harsh lighting with pressure, maybe on a tired day. You don't fail outright, but you don't meet the usual standard either. That borderline result triggers a temporary shorter-term license, additional medical forms, a possible follow-up road test or recheck. What you expected to be a 5-minute renewal becomes a multi-step review process. None of this would have been as stressful if you'd known and prepared 6 months earlier. Failing a vision test doesn't always mean losing your license. Often it means you need updated glasses. You're restricted to daytime driving. You get a shorter renewal period. The goal is still safety, not punishment. But the system doesn't slow down just because you were surprised. So do this now. Take out your license and check the expiration year. If it's 2026, don't wait. Go to your DMV's official website and look up renewal requirements by age. Note exactly what they require for your age group. Set a reminder for 60 days before your expiration. If you use corrective lenses, schedule an eye exam before you renew. Preparation shifts this from a stressful surprise to a manageable process. Just when people think they've accounted for insurance, medical, and age factors, the fourth change shows up in places they feel safe. Red lights, parking lots, drive-through lines. Distracted driving enforcement has moved far beyond simple texting bans. In many states, distracted driving now includes holding your phone, checking notifications, scrolling music or podcasts, tapping navigation apps, interacting with any app while the car is running. And here's the part that shocks almost everyone. If your engine is on, like even if you are at a complete stop at a red light, touching your phone can be illegal under current laws. People feel safe because they're not moving. The law increasingly doesn't make that distinction. Penalties ramp up quickly. First offense, typically $100, $250 fine. Second offense, often $300, $500 plus points on your license and a notice to your insurer. Third offense, in some states, potential short-term suspension. If you cause a collision while distracted, even a minor one, the charge can upgrade to reckless driving or to a higher class misdemeanor. Here's a real-world pattern that is becoming common. You're driving to an appointment. Phone rings, you pick it up. An officer sees you. It's your second distracted driving citation in 2 years. You pay the fine. Points go on your record. Your insurer raises your rates. Months later, you're at a red light, glance at your GPS, miss the green, roll forward, and bump the car ahead. No one is injured. But because you were interacting with your phone, fault is straightforward, and the company raises your rates again. Now, one more violation could push you into suspension territory or make your insurance nearly unaffordable. The simplest rule is also the hardest to follow out of habit. If the car is running, don't touch your phone at all. Set your destination and music before you drive. Use hands-free voice commands if your car supports them. If you absolutely must interact with your phone, pull over, put the car in park, then do it. Anything else is a bet that you won't be seen, won't be stopped, or won't slip at a costly moment. Individually, each of these rules is serious. Together, they explain why the fallout feels so intense. Because the fifth change isn't a single rule, it's a shift in consequence. In the past, a suspension often meant pay a fee, take a short class, move on. Today, one suspension commonly leads to 3 to 5 years of higher premiums, SR22, or similar filings that can double your insurance cost. Points that permanently reshape your risk profile, trouble renting cars, or being added to another person's policy. And most drivers don't realize once you're flagged, you are hope always flagged somewhere. An insurance lapse, a medical-based suspension, a distracted driving mark. These live and permanent digital records that follow you from company to company and from renewal to renewal. This is automation's hidden cost. It makes enforcement fast but also unforgiving. There is no clerk scanning your file and saying, "You've been safe for 40 years. We'll give you a break." The system sees a missed deadline. JOC noncompliance, a lapse, JOT risk indicator, a citation, JOSH behavioral red flag. Those markers then influence every decision that comes next, from what you pay to how much scrutiny you get next time. States are trying to manage millions of drivers with limited staff and tight budgets. Automation is their solution, but when you combine that with stricter rules and always-on data sharing, the chance of unintentional violations skyrockets. That's why so many drivers feel like they're getting hit out of nowhere. The rules themselves changed slowly. The cost of missteps changed fast. Small administrative slips now trigger years of financial and legal headaches. The good news, once you understand how the system behaves, you can get out in front of it. Here's a practical action plan that protects you from all 5 changes at once. No lawyers, no special favors, just awareness and small steps. 1. Check your license status and expiration date right now. If it expires in 2026, go to your DMV's site and look up renewal rules by age. Don't assume your last experience still applies. Rules change quietly. 2. Schedule eye and medical exams early. If you wear glasses, get an updated prescription now. If you have a health condition that might interface with driving law, talk to your doctor before a DMV letter ever shows up. 3. Review your insurance payments and coverage dates. Make sure your policy is current, your payment method is up to date, and your new policy, if you switch, starts before the old one ends. 4. Learn your state's distracted driving law from the official source. Does it ban all handheld use? At what points does it escalate? Does it apply when stopped at signals? Know the exact language. 5. Update your contact info with both your insurer and DMV. If they mail you something important and it goes to an old address, the system will keep moving whether you see it or not. 6. Set up auto-pay and digital reminders, use automatic payments for insurance and registration, and set calendar alerts 30 days before any major deadline, license renewal, registration, expiration, medical reviews. 7. Keep copies of everything: renewal receipts, insurance cards, DMV notices, medical forms. Have a physical folder and a digital one. If you ever need to prove compliance, documentation is your shield. These systems are not designed to steal your independence. They exist because states are being pushed to juggle road safety, lawsuit risk, and budget limits all at once. But the system does not reward good intentions. It rewards compliance. The people who stay licensed and insured with minimal stress are not the ones who are perfect. They're the ones who check early, respond quickly, and don't assume it will work out. There are 3 big ideas to take away from this one. Automated systems apply penalties immediately. Long grace periods are disappearing. One missed requirement or ignored notice is enough to trigger real consequences. 2, if you're over 65, renewal is no longer a simple automatic process in many places. You need to know your state's specific rules well before your expiration date. 3, small, easily fixed mistakes now have long shadows. A missed insurance payment, a DMV letter left unopened, or a couple of distracted driving tickets can morph into suspensions, steep insurance hikes, and months of stress. Driving isn't just about getting from point A to point B. It's about independence. Getting to your doctor, seeing your kids or grandkids, shopping on your own terms, maintaining your life. Staying informed is how you protect that independence. If this helped you see the risk more clearly, subscribe so you don't miss updates as these rules evolve. Leave a comment with your state, and I'll point you toward the specific resources that apply where you live. And if you know someone, especially an older family member, neighbor, or friend, who will be renewing a license or changing insurance soon, share this with them. One conversation like this can prevent years of fallout. Stay informed, stay compliant, and protect your independence.